All right. And it helps if I unmute myself for Facebook. So, good afternoon. I am Jamesia Jonay Hawk. I am the wealth creator. I show people how to use other people's money to pay their mortgage, create cash flow, generate generational wealth, and protect their assets, right? So today, coming to you, talking from a place of experience and a little bit of expertise. I was born and raised in the city of Chicago in the Northwest Austin area. I was born and taken home. Well, I was born at Mercy Hospital over in Bronzeville. And then I was brought home to an apartment in Northwest Austin that used to be on Lamont and Augusta. And from there, we moved to another apartment on Austin Boulevard in Augusta. And then my parents purchased a home in 1984 on leap year. So I guess that was a leap year. So February 29th, 1984, my parents purchased a home in Northwest Austin. And there's something interesting about that I want to mention really quickly. My father said that the real estate agent that they were working with at that time didn't even take them to like Maywood, Bellwood, Hillside, Westchester, any of those areas, any of those suburbs. My mother's biggest thing was large bedrooms. We have decent sized bedrooms. 3 out of the 5 bedrooms in my home are big enough for like a king size bed. You can put a couch in there and do some different things. So that was important to my mom. So they purchased a 5-bed, 3-bath home back in 1984. A lot of what's going on with bungalows now, with people popping the top, as it's called, popping the top and putting dormers on top. Whoever had this home before my parents purchased it, they did that, right? They popped the top, so there's a dormer on top. So that's how we're able to live in a 5-bedroom bungalow in the Northwest Austin area. And this area is seeing it has seen some great appreciation and things like that, right? So that's a little bit about who I am. It's interesting, and I want to mention one more thing before I really get into this thing, because I remember that I was posting one day going back with someone, and they asked me, have you ever even driven through the hood? Like, technically, honey, I was born and raised in the hood. I was born and raised on the west side of Chicago. So I was raised in Northwest Austin. I went to school in East Garfield, went to Providence St. Mill School right by Garfield Park, right? So I rode the Madison bus sometimes to school from Central Avenue all the way to Central Park, right? So I had to pass Laramie, I had to pass Cicero, I had to pass Pulaski, I had to pass Holman, I had to pass a lot of streets, right, to get to my school. So yes, I am well familiar with riding through the hood. My mother was not born and raised. My mother was started out in Bronzeville, but she and her siblings grew up in Rockwell Garden Projects. So after I was born, my grandfather still spent time in the projects. Sometimes he would call my dad. We would go to Rockwell Garden Projects and pick up my granddaddy, drop him off at home. He lived in West Humboldt Park in a building that my uncle owned. So yes, I'm familiar. My cousin, his first daughter, her mama lives in Cabrini Green. We would go to Cabrini Green. Just saying these things to set the tone. I'm well aware of the hood, been in the hood, been around the hood, all of that good stuff, right? So I purchased a building in Auburn, Gresham in 2014. My son still went to school. My son went to school in Ukrainian Village. So it would be traffic. So every day for 2 years, right, I would take the streets home. So we would do like an Ashland route. We would hop on the expressway, hop off. I drove through Englewood every day for 2 years. We're going to talk about Inglewood and some other areas. I drove through Inglewood every day for 2 years, sometimes morning and night. Because in the morning, I didn't get on the expressway. Me and my son would do we took a little route on the street that was easy, like took us through Pilsen and all of this good stuff. What would we start off with? I think I would start off with like Ashland or something. But anyway, not to digress, Chicago's worst areas are prime real estate, right? So a couple of things to give some context. When African Americans started to migrate to the city of Chicago, we were restricted to what is known as the Black Belt. So most of the communities that we consider the hood, including Englewood, Black folks didn't live there once upon a time. Okay? Black folks were primarily restricted between Roosevelt and 79th, Cottage Grove to, I believe, Wentworth. Somebody can fact check for me, right? So a part of that, a small portion of that may include Englewood, like a very small portion, but the majority of Englewood is not included in that. Black people didn't live there. Black people didn't originally live in Northwest Austin. My father was born in 1948. He remembers when African Americans could not walk past and should not be seen west of Pulaski. I met and talked to somebody that said that African Americans could not walk past and should not have been seen west of Western, right? So a lot of areas that we consider Black communities, that we also consider the hood, just 50, 60, 70 years ago, we weren't living in those communities. A woman I know who's more than likely in her 50s, her parents were the first African Americans to get a home financed by a mortgage broker and moved into the Lonsdale area on the west side of Chicago, right? So there's a famous quote out there attributed to Warren Buffett that says, where there's blood, buy. When there's bloodshed, buy, right? But what happens, and this is not to negate, when an individual grows up in a war zone, because that's what some of these communities have been, when you grow up in a war zone, when you hear gunshots almost every day, at night, etc., one of the first things you're thinking about is how to get up out of the hood, right? I don't take that away from anybody. I can completely understand it. You have a concern for your safety. You have a concern for other people's safety. Maybe you've seen someone gunned down, shot at, etc., right? Totally can understand that, right? But what happens is when areas that African Americans have lived in for the last 30, 40, 50 years start to be revitalized and the gentrification process starts, a lot of times we cry foul. But the truth is, many African Americans chose to purchase in the south suburbs, some of the western suburbs, and there's nothing wrong with living where you want to live, right? People that want to live in the suburbs, I totally get it. People that don't want to live in the city, I totally get it, right? I want to be clear. I've been talking about this for the last 5 or 6 years or more. I am a licensed real estate professional in the state of Illinois. I passed my test September 28, 2017. I've been a licensed real estate professional for the last 4 years. But I want to give some more context. I'm going to read this comment. Bridget said, the South Side is going to get the Obama Library. That value is going up quick. We better get in now. Bridget, if I told you you were too late, you probably would not believe me, right? It's all about anticipation. The South Shore area, homes are being listed and being sold in certain places. Actually, my broker sold a home on 74th and So it's Yates. It's about 2 blocks east of Yates. I want to say it's Crandon, but I'm not really good with streets on the south side, for $419,000 in 2019. Homes there. I went to an open house in 2019 on 65th Place, right off of Stony Island, right? Please forgive me, everyone, and I'm not being disrespectful or anything like that, or not being, not trying to be politically incorrect, but I was watching an episode of Girlfriends, and Joan was like, when the gays move in, that's a good sign because you know the neighborhood is up and coming, right? So I'm at this open house for a condo on 65th Place off of Stony Island. The 2 gentlemen that lives on the 2nd floor came downstairs and introduced themselves. 2 white men. That was in 2019, and they had like a little pug dog. Right? Why am I saying this? Certain people want to participate in one of the main purposes of home ownership, which is equity. So they get in early. They buy in, they move in while there is still crime, while the neighborhood isn't the best, because they understand the concept in real estate is to buy low and sell high, right? So my mother grew up in Rockwell Gardens. Her friends lived on, one of her best friends, her very first best friend lives on Campbell off of Jackson Avenue, right? So from time to time, we would go and visit her friend over there. This is when the project buildings were still standing. One of their first neighbors was a white woman, a family, and they had small children. This was back in the 90s. No African American in their right mind that felt like they had arrived, or bougie, whatever we want to call it, would have purchased in that area. It's Rockwell Gardens. It's the projects. It's this. It's that. It's crime. They shooting, the vice lords, the this, the that. All of this is going on. Right now in that area, homes and buildings sell for $300,000 going up. When you think about where you want to live, when you think about where you choose to live, there are certain things to take into consideration, that people take into consideration. One of the main things, 2 main things, the schools in the area, but people know in the Chicago public school system, we have selective enrollment schools. I never went to a neighborhood school. Never. Went to Mark T. Skinner School, 1st through 6th grade. I went to Providence St. Mel School, 7th through 12th grade. My sister went to Ebinger School, 1st through 8th grade, or no, she started out, my sister was born in Rockwell Gardens. So she started out at, Lord, I can't think of the name of the school, but she started out at the school over there. She ended up going to Ebinger, and then she went to Whitney Young High School, right? So they think about this type of schools. Once upon a time, suburban people were lying to get their kids in Walter Payton, Whitney Young, and some of these other schools. They see the value in free public education, right? So you think about schools. Second thing you think about is access to transportation. So many people have moved out to these suburbs. And then when your teenager decides to get a job or whatever the case may be, access to public transportation or being able to get back and forth to work and move around at certain times of the day or night can sometimes be limited. Some people want to live in the city due to accessibility to public transportation. They can get on a bus, they can get on the train, they can walk, they can bike wherever they need to go. Not only that, when neighborhoods start to revitalize and gentrify, resources are brought into the community. So what happened right outside of Rockwell Gardens? They put a Pete's Fresh Market on Madison and Western. They put a Pete's Fresh Market, a Chase, a few other things. They put a Mariano's on Chicago Avenue and Western. There is a Jewel down on Ashland and Roosevelt. The Blue Line is on 290 Expressway. The Green Line is right on Lake Street. So why does Englewood make sense? Let me check. I got my notes here, right? So let me say this before I go there. And I've said this before. In 2001, I worked for APC Research. It was over on Bryn Mawr, not too far from O'Hare, A. Pulaski Company. I was a survey interviewer. My job, one of the surveys I had, was to call people who had a minimum net worth of $250,000. They had to own a boat. There were different criteria. The purpose of the survey was to ask these individuals that were currently living in the suburbs, what would it take for them to move back to the city of Chicago? Some people said, hell no, never, I will not. Some people said why they would. So I'm gonna leave that there, right? That's one. Let me go back a little bit. In 1997, I visited Paris, France through Providence St. Mary's Summer Opportunity of a Lifetime program. And what was explained to us was, for the most part, the wealthiest people live in the heart of the city. The further you go out, the poorer the communities become. And of course, you have some outliers, right? So when I come back home, I have that conversation with my mother. In 1997, my mom said that is what's going to happen in the city of Chicago, right? My mom. Her brother was the Cook County Sheriff. He retired, I want to say like back in 2010-ish, somewhere around there. One of his areas that he had to work was Englewood. He said to myself and others, he said, the city, downtown, the heart of the city will start at downtown and will include a 40-block radius going north, going south, and going west. And that is what we are seeing in the city of Chicago. 40 blocks south of downtown is Bronzeville. 40 blocks north, we already know that's the north side, all of that good stuff. You come in 40 blocks west, that's going to actually bring you all the way to Pulaski. Right now, they have basically rehabbed, revitalized as west as Kedzie. I haven't really looked into it as of late, but they got as far back as Kedzie. Kedzie is 3,300 west, 3,300 or 3,400 west. That's 40 blocks. 40, 40, 40. Okay. So what happens to our communities is that we don't see the value, but someone always knew it was a gold mine. The issue is when the Fair Housing Act of 1968 happened, when the Civil Rights Act of 1968 happened, and we felt like there was progression for us, individuals, we started moving out of the Black Belt and started venturing into other areas. So the areas that we ventured into, individuals started moving away. There were developments in suburbs before there was even a demand for suburban living. If you don't take anything away from what I'm saying, please understand that all of this is by design. So as we were allowed to start moving out of the Black Belt and into the Lonsdale community and other communities, Other people decided to move to the suburbs. I remember when we moved on our block, we had a few Caucasian neighbors, right? Our next door neighbor, I don't know where they moved to. It was an older white guy, and he had like a hump on his neck, but he was a really nice guy. And my father would go outside, and if my dad cut our grass, he would cut his grass, shovel his snow, just being neighborly, right? That's the type of community I grew up in on the west side of Chicago. But there was a great white flight out of these communities. They want the city back. They're coming for the city of Chicago. So I'm a human resources professional. I'm sitting in a recruitment event somewhere around, let's say, 2015. Millennials, for the most part, do not want to be like their parents. They don't want to live in the suburbs. They want to live in the city. So companies like Allstate, that's in Deerfield, corporate headquarters, State Farm, corporate headquarters in Bloomington, Illinois. Your Motorola, whose corporate headquarters was like Oak Brook-ish area. Motorola moved downtown. A lot of these companies decided to move to downtown Chicago because millennials want to live in the city. But here's the thing. Everybody that rents on the north side of Chicago in certain areas can't afford to buy in those areas. Properties in some of those areas are being sold $500,000 and up. Actually, $800,000 and up. So what are people doing? They're moving to the low end. They're going to the Bronzevilles. They're going to the Inglewoods. They're going to the Woodlines. The University of Chicago is highly invested in the Woodline community. Highly invested, right? So about 5 years ago or so, there was a Renew Woodline initiative where people could get up to $75,000 to purchase in Woodline. But what did most people see? They saw the old Woodline. They did not see the vision for what was going to be the new Woodline and how Woodline is developing and changing, and it's being gentrified. And yes, Caucasians and other people are have been moving into and living in Woodline and moving into Bronzeville and even moving into Englewood. But what do I get most of the time when I talk to people in my community? Y'all don't think the Caucasian people know about the crime? That's all they put on the news. This person got shot. This person got robbed. This, that, or the other. They know, but they also know that there are plans. I remember I was driving Uber. I picked a Caucasian guy up around Van Buren and Independence. He said, oh, me and my boyfriend have been living in this neighborhood for like 20 years. The neighbors are amazing. He said, we purchased our 2-flat for $150,000 or whatever it was back then. He was like, the property has grown in appreciation. I'm right by the train. I can just walk and get on the train to work. I say, oh, okay. Because anytime I pick up a Caucasian person in a predominantly African-American neighborhood that is not, and this was the West Garfield area that's known for having high crime, I ask questions because I'm intrigued. Just like when I picked a Caucasian person up in Bronzeville. I asked her, when did she move over there? What made her move over there? And then when I dropped her off at work on Michigan Avenue, I told her, you know, the King Drive bus, because she was between King Drive and Cottage. I said, you know, if you get on the King Drive bus, it will take you right to work. She was like, oh my God, I've seen that bus. I just didn't know where it goes. Baby, it will bring you right home. You can take one bus from Bronzeville and end up on the Gold Coast in Chicago. Right? All right. So, brought up Woodline, right? Hey, Naisha, yes, May 1st. I'm going to mention that too. Thank you for saying that. I got to update a couple of things on the website, but the link is ready before I activate the link. So what am I saying? So Renew Woodline. Now, or a couple of years ago, when Woodline starts to change, Woodline starts to flip, now people are like, oh my God, what's going on? We got left out. No, They had billboards about the Renew Woodlawn initiative. I was talking about it. Other realtors I know and different professionals in real estate were talking about it. But the thing is, most people didn't see the vision. They saw the now. They didn't see the what's coming next, what's later. And so they're telling us, the professionals, you're crazy, because they felt like we were just trying to make money off of them. When we're saying capitalize on real estate, buy low, sell high, and get some equity and appreciation in your property. And the taxes are lower. The highest taxes in the state of Illinois are Richmond Park, Illinois. Ain't no reason why they got the highest taxes in the whole state. You mean to tell me their property taxes are higher than the Northbrook? A Wilmette? This is how people will. This is how some people continue to stay house poor. And again, I get it. Trust me. I lived in Northwest Austin. I lived in Auburn Gresham. My daddy's mama lives over east off of 79th and Yates. My mama's mama lived in West Humboldt Park. One of my daddy's brothers lives in West Englewood, what's considered now West Englewood, around 69th and Western. Born, raised all up and through the hood. It's a real estate gold mine. Let me tell you why Inglewood is a real estate gold mine. Let me mention Bronzeville though, right? People felt the same way about Bronzeville. I'll never forget, it was 2001. It says people felt the same way about Bryan. People felt the same way about Bronzeville. 2001, I meet this guy. He invites me and my friends over. We go to the home. They had gutted out one of those gray stones and turned it into a single family home. It was an amazing home, right? Yes, there are still opportunities to buy in Inglewood, Naisha, if you can find something. I'm gonna mention that too. It was fully gutted, right? But so once upon a time, Bronzeville had the most vacant lots in the city of Chicago. Bronzeville had a lot of abandoned homes. Bronzeville had a lot of abandoned properties. Some of the owners decided to sit on their property and wait it out because they knew what was coming. Some owners decided to sell. So when you see a vacant property, understand that some owners are just waiting for an opportunity. There are tax benefits to owning a vacant, abandoned property. They get tax write-offs for that. They writing that off on their taxes. Right? Now, Bronzeville, I'll have people saying, I want to buy a building, and they're only approved for like $200,000, and they mention Bronzeville. Oh, you want to buy something to gut out and rehab? Because the chances of you buying something that looks newer in Bronzeville in 2019 for that amount, you don't have the buying power for that. That's the reality. You waited too long. What's that, Mike Jones? Back then they didn't want me. Now I'm hot. They all on me. Don't wait till it get hot to decide you want it, right? A house sold in Woodlawn for over $600,000. Don't wait till it get hot to decide you want it. When property values increase, when the cost of homes increases, rent increases too. So sometimes you can't afford to buy in that area or rent in that area. And sometimes your mortgage can be less than what your potential rent would be. Some people are going to be highly upset when they learn that they can only afford to live in the hood, whether it's renting or buying, and it's going to be the hood. And some of them south suburbs is real hoodish. I posted on my Facebook, most dangerous areas color-coded by crime. Some of them south suburbs included in there. Some of y'all out there in Dalton and some of these other areas, y'all got to watch y'all back just like y'all think I do on the west side of Chicago. It's just not broadcasted on the news. When I started working in Olympia Fields. Then they moved me to the Park Forest location. I called Jimmy John's. Now, Jimmy John's is in between, directly in between. It's 5 miles to Olympia Fields, 5 miles to my Park Forest office. Jimmy John said, we don't deliver to Park Forest. I said, well, what Jimmy John's does? They said, no, Jimmy John's delivers to Park Forest. I asked my coworkers, I say, I didn't survive growing up in the city of Chicago to come work in Park Forest, and now I'm in the hood. Shootings at movie theaters while I was out there. My friend's daughter worked at Family Dollar. Armed robberies, all of this stuff happening in Park Forest, Illinois. One of my supervisors talking about how it was a shooting in the apartment complex that she lives in. So one of the things that I ask people, when is the last time that you Google or looks up the crime in your own community? We turn our noses up at other communities and we have not looked at the crime in our community. I'm guilty of this. When I moved to Auburn Gresham into my building from Northwest Austin, I looked up the crime statistics for Chicago and it said that the Austin community had the most murders in the city that year. Oh, so I moved from the area that had the most murders to an area that had less murders, but I was looking at it the other way around. Familiarity creates comfort. Most of us are just comfortable in our community. And yes, once upon a time, Englewood was known as one of the worst areas one could possibly think to live in the city of Chicago. Times are changing. How did we know times were changing? When they invested in Kennedy King College. When they put the Whole Foods and that whole new subdivision over there. Haven't been by there in a while, but the land right behind that area was gated off. Somebody owns that, and they put a gate around it for a reason. They wait. I don't know if they started developing one there yet. I haven't been that way in a while. They put a whole new high school. And if I'm not mistaken, that high school is a selective enrollment school over around like 64th and Normal. When you see bike lanes in a community, these are signs revitalization and gentrification are coming. The goal would be to be as close to 63rd and Halstead as possible. Stay within about a mile radius, right? 69th and Normal, thank you so much. Right. It's a brewery in Englewood. Then there's a manufacturing business or plants or something that was built around Wentworth-ish, like 60, I want to say 79, like around 79th and not too far from the expressway, right? Right? What does all of this mean? So, hey, Tiana, how you doing? Just like Bronzeville, aka the low end. Right, Bronzeville used to be called the low end. People that grew up in the low end, they grew up in the hood. Now it's Bronzeville. And it's a beautiful thing. One of the beautiful things about Bronzeville is to see African-American people who are buying in that community and still staying in that community. It's a beautiful thing. We want gentrification means improvements and resources. The issue comes when people are displaced. But a lot of times people are displaced because we're not in the proper financial position to hold our grounds in our community. Home ownership includes maintaining a home, updating the property. Property should be updated. Certain parts of your property, specifically like kitchens, you should paint at least every 5 years. I would say update kitchens and bathrooms every 10 to 15 years. You have to be able to invest money into your home. Yes, and the property value ain't on nothing. Hold on. Yes, you are right. My mom bought her building in Woodlawn in 2000. She couldn't get in Bronzeville, and we were born and raised on the low end. And that was 20 something years ago. Because, so this is what I meant to say. So what happened was, and we get offended when people would say you're from the low end. See, I wasn't even from, that's how I feel when people come from the west, come for the west side. I say, let me tell you, it's gonna come a day where you wish you could live on the west side, but you're not gonna be able to afford to. And let me tell you what I saw today. I'm not saying it sells, but I'm gonna watch this house. It's not too far from my house. Y'all can listed this house for almost $600,000 in my community. Well, won't he do it? Let it sell. Let it sell for something good. Baby, I'm gonna talk to my parents. Let's get this basement bathroom done. Let's do this basement. Let's spruce up these bathrooms real quick and put this baby on the market and take advantage of all of that equity. I go move in a condo somewhere. It's okay. Right? Well, as people get offended. Oh, you from, you know. But some individuals, investors knew, government officials knew that these areas were real estate gold mines. We don't value the hood. We don't value the hood, but we want other people to see value in the hood. But when gentrification and displacement comes, we want to cry, bitch, and moan about it, but we didn't want to live in the community to begin with. We didn't want to live in the community to begin with. So what sparked this whole thing was a house sold in Inglewood, 530 West 61st Street, Tuesday for $310,000. It is a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home, 3,800 square feet. The first installment taxes for this year, March 2021, for the home were like $400, under $500. It was between $400 and $500. I don't remember if it was $425 or $495 for the house, right? And usually your first tax payment is the highest tax payment. So their second tax payment is only going to be about $300 or so. So we're talking about $700 taxes for 2020 on the home. That may change in 2021, property taxes. And then there's also land attached to this property that has a separate PIN number that's major. The taxes on the land were between $100 and $200. So you mean to tell me the property taxes on this house for 2020 were only $1,500? So a loan officer came onto my post. He ran the numbers thinking about somebody getting an FHA loan at 3.25% interest, 3.5% down. The principal interest, taxes, and insurance payment on the home would be $1,725. I know someone renting a house in Inglewood for $1,500. $310,000, that's a lot of money. No, it's not. It's really not. It's not. The issue is many of our incomes are not increasing and keeping up with inflation. So there are people in 2021 that are making $40,000, $50,000 a year, and the buying power for the dollar is much less because of inflation. So $40,000, $50,000 a year was a decent salary in 1990. even 2,000, let me say 2,000. $40,000, $50,000 starting salary in 2000 for a college grad could be pretty decent. If you're still making that in 2021 as an adult that has children, etc., you're living in poverty. EPI.org says for a family of 4 to live comfortably in Chicago, the earnings at least needs to be $80,000 a year. And it averaged the rent or housing payment to be like $1,200, which is pretty low. Also, when Mayor Daley started the ordinance where all lots should be owned by the residents in Bronzeville and Bridgeport, no one wanted the lots until the others started to buy it up. I can see that. And let me tell you something. The entire Bridgeport area was rezoned residential. So when a business sells, that business can automatically be converted into a residential property in some way, shape, or form, and the zoning is already done. I love real estate. I know some people think I stopped doing real estate. I loved real estate. Loved it before I became an agent. I just happens to be a life insurance agent as well. I love real estate, and I get down in the trenches with this thing. That's why it's like I know stuff that the average agent don't know. I already know I do, right? So think about this. People were mad as hell. Rahm Emanuel closed the schools. Rahm Emanuel did not close one school. That started back in 1990, in the late 1990s with Renaissance 2010, when we welcomed charter schools into our communities. If we're moving out of the communities, if we're not procreating at an alarming rate, and you're taking students from the regular public school and putting them into the charter school, and then when you have a charter school, a Catholic school, a private school in an area, funds from the Chicago public schools actually go to those schools because that student would be going to a regular Chicago public school. What did we think was going to happen? The truth is, most of us were not thinking. My childhood friend at the time, her mom was completely against Renaissance 2010. Because when I started this, what did I say? 2 things to take into consideration when purchasing property, especially for a family. One of them is schools. One of them is access to transportation. If I close the schools in this community, people are not going to want to live here. It's by design. But this shit started 20, 30 years ago. We late. We missed it. Some. There's still opportunity. I'm a positive person. Some of us 20 years ago, we weren't even old enough, right? But this is by design. It's a snowball effect. So Renaissance 2010, these charter schools pop up. So then Rahm Emanuel doing his mayoral run, now these schools close. And we're mad at Rahm Emanuel, but he finished what Mayor Daley started. He had no control over it. When Lori Lightfoot formally became mayor, the housing plan for the city of Chicago through 2025 was done before her first day as mayor of the city of Chicago. She ain't got nothing to do with this. All of this, a lot of this information is public knowledge. I'm just a little nerdy about it, and I'm more, passionate about it. So now let me talk about Inglewood. So this home sells for $310,000. So back in 2015, 2016, I'm now living in my property. 2015, my friend who does my nails, she has family that lives in Englewood. Developers have been knocking on the residents' doors of Inglewood for over 5 years. trying to get them to sell. So whatever railroad company that is, oh, a train that had semi-automatic weapons was compromised. It was just sitting in Englewood and people came and took the guns. Oh no. It's by design. Where there's blood, you should be thinking about buying and investing. Buy low, sell high. So this home that sold for $310,000 was purchased in 2019 for $15,000. I don't know what their rehab costs or their housing costs were. I'm going to estimate, and let's say their rehab closing costs, let's say all in, it was $250,000. I'll say $245,000. So let's say all in $245,000 plus the acquisition of $15,000 brings me to $260,000. So when the house sold at $360,000 2 years later, there's a profit of $100,000. Talk about an ROI, especially since hopefully if they were wise, the $245,000 was OPM, other people's money. Why is Bronzeville a real estate gold mine? Flow with me. Let's think about 55th, right? And on 55th, a colleague of mine, her guy bought a building on Garfield Boulevard of 55th by Ashland. It's a vacant lot next to it. He put in for the vacant lot. And then next to that, it's an abandoned home, a red, beautiful brick home, right? Now you shall love where you're going with this. So they find the owner of that home and reach out to the owner to see if she wants to sell. She said, no, I'm waiting. I'm good. It's abandoned. It's vacant. Just sitting there, waiting opportunity. So let's talk about Inglewood. 55th Street goes through Inglewood. 71st Street goes through Inglewood, right? 79th Street is basically the cutoff for Inglewood, right? So Ashland goes through Inglewood. Halstead goes through Inglewood, right? I can go north, south, east, and west. Taking Ashland, taking Halstead, taking 55th, taking 71st. 55th will take me to Midway Airport. 55th, like Naisha said, will take me to the lake. 55th will take me to the University of Chicago Hospital. 55th will take me to the University of Chicago College. Transportation. I can get there by bus or bike. I have the red line. I have the green line. So I got bus, I got train, I can go by foot. I have the expressway. It's prime real estate. I can be downtown in 15 minutes. I can be to the lakefront in 15 minutes. I can be to the airport in 30 minutes. And I can leave my car in my garage. Prime real estate. It's a real estate gold mine. I've been talking about, so Englewood, Greater Grand Crossing, your Chatham, your Woodlawn. It's a reason why these areas are being revitalized and coming back. Your South Shores, it's a reason for that. There's no more land. God ain't making no more land. This is it. You can either build up or you can revitalize and rehab. They done did all the building just about they can do in the South Loop in some of those areas. Same thing can be said for the West Loop. So now we got a near West Side. I'm sorry, y'all. I like this song. What the fuck is that? When my daddy was growing up, actually, parts of 79th Street are considered Englewood. Auburn doesn't automatically start at 75th. It's cut out weird. Englewood got like 3 aldermen, which is crazy to me too. But what the fuck is the near West Side? When my daddy was growing up, anything west of Hosted was considered the West Side. So what some people, oh, I'm in the West Loop. No, you're really on the West Side. Oh, I'm over here in University Village. Oh, you on the West Side, right? Why is the West Side popping? We got the whole medical district. United Center. Planes, trains, and automobiles. You know what I'm saying? Right? So when you think about where you're living, where you want to move, why these things make sense. But here's the thing. Some of the comments, people were like, hell no, never. I'm not moving into that area. Definitely beautiful, but the price is too high. For the size, the rehab probably cost about $200,000, which is cool. It sold for $310,000. It was only purchased for $15,000. There are holding costs involved though. Those vacant lots are still surrounding it. Yes, there is a vacant lot actually next to it that's for sale. I need to answer that question. And one of the lots is connected to the property. That's my friend's property. They rehabbed it. If people knew and fully understood the stories associated with some of these rehabs in certain communities, they would be absolutely flabbergasted. It will also disrupt the state of the market. One can go basic all the way. The buyer investor saw what most did not and profited greatly from someone who saw the value in their beautiful work and understand community market trends, right? A woman said that there's a group of white Christian teachers over there doing something similar. They are purchasing the properties really low, rehabbing them and moving in along with making small clubs for children in them. I forget the name of the school they are from, but it is also over there. Everything is gated up with really tall iron fences. They basically brought our school in to teach them how to communicate with African-American students. Mark Zuckerberg is invested in Englewood. May or may not be for you. Someone said I'd do it in a heartbeat. I grew up in Englewood, still some good people there. I believe it's the next Bronzeville. We got to stop thinking negatively and start investing in and taking back our neighborhoods. Right down the street from me, this is how you create generational wealth. I tell us all the time, buy your community before they do, because we paying more to rent than own. And they buy in those places for pennies on the dollar. And the more they buy up the neighborhood, they'll just push us out of the city, right? So then I went back and looked at old posts I made about Inglewood, even before I became a real estate agent, right? So back in, no, that's the property that's for sale by me. I posted in 2018, I mentioned Inglewood. No one wants to buy or invest there. No one wants to drive through there. They mentioned school closings and some in the community are fake outraged. I'm confused. So now schools are closing down in that area, but people are confused. And I drove through Inglewood again for 2 years, every day. I posted back February 2018, an article I was reading in a magazine, investing in the future of Inglewood's youth, when they built the new school that has, it looks like a football field and some other things over there on 69th and Normal. I posted back in 2019, all these areas are fire, right? So that's Galewood, Oakbrook, Englewood, Washington Park. I said single family, multi-unit and commercial properties If you're interested in fixing and flipping, buying and holding, contact me ASAP. Galewood has always been good. Oak Park is the suburbs. Englewood, Washington Park, Lawndale. Those areas are hot, right? They popping. And now it's Washington Park getting Obama Library or Jackson Park, right? Feel free to ask any questions. I posted something, I don't remember what year this was, but there is a urban farm in Englewood. We actually drove past it. So there is a urban farm in Englewood, and the family that has the farm or has a house right next to it. Yes, they are growing their own. It's a farm in Englewood. It's a farm in Englewood. When people say, why Englewood? It's a whole farm in Englewood. A little farm in Englewood. And I believe African Americans own it. I love that part, right? Love that part. So this was back in, and all of this is on my page. This was back in 2016, because I think I said I wasn't even a realtor yet. It says Millennials by abc7chicago.com. Millennials buy Inglewood homes help transform neighborhood. If there were a 4,000 square foot home that you could buy for $10,000, would you buy it? Why not? It's a bargain. So the gentleman that bought, or the individual that bought the home that sold for $310,000, they bought it back in 2019 for $15,000. It's a 3,800 square foot home. A couple of people I know the investor. They say originally the individual was thinking about living there. So they put a lot of money into that property. But if I buy something for $15,000, I put some money into it and I can see some instant equity. Why not? It makes total sense. And there was money out there, 203K loans and all of these different things were out there available for people. But some people say, Englewood. So somewhere around 63rd and the Stewart area, it's one block. It's like behind the hospital area-ish, because me and my son, y'all know when the Dan Ryan starts to back up, me and my son will hop off on 63rd, and one day I'll go down this street and I see this beautiful brick, newer constructed home with an attached garage, and there are these Victorians around it, and a lot of the Victorians were being rehabbed. So I take pictures and I ask people where it is. Someone knew exactly where it was, a loan officer, because she had underwritten a loan to somebody who bought one of those Victorian homes for $10,000 and was rehabbing it to live in. So she was like, I know exactly where it is. It's Inglewood. But people were saying the North Side, people were saying all types of places. I'm like, no, this is Inglewood. That's just like Midway Park on the west side of Chicago. It's literally like 3 blocks of Benny mansions on the west side of Chicago off of Austin and Lake Street. Okay. We got to start seeing the value in our hoods. It's a gold mine. So in 2018, I'm a part of, Lord have mercy, y'all, I'm drawing a blank, National Association of Real Estate Brokers, NAREB. So they did Community Wealth Day, and LaShawn K. Ford was there, Governor Pritzker, different people. LaShawn K. Ford said, I grew up in Cabrini Green. This was May 26, 2018. I grew up in Cabrini Green. My mom and I wish we could afford to live in that area now. Those opportunities are in Roseland, Englewood, and Austin. So, I am Jamesia Jonay, the Wealth Creator. I show people how to use other people's money to pay their mortgage, create cash flow, generate generational wealth, and protect their assets. I am a licensed real estate professional in the state of Illinois, specializing in the Chicago lands area. I speak fluent investor and fluent rehab. It's a cost for that. If you have no idea about investing and rehabbing and you're looking to invest and rehab as an investor, I would love to work with you. It's not free. That's not my job as an agent. My basic job as an agent is to show homes, write offers, and help your home get sold. I just know some things that the average real estate agent does not know. Naisha mentioned it May 1st myself, and one of the brokers with me at Compass Real Estate, who's also a licensed life insurance agent. We are doing a live event, but it will also be on Zoom, so you don't have to be in Chicago. Live portion will be very intimate due to COVID and all of those things. So at most 10 or 15 people will be able to join us live, but everybody else can join us via Zoom. It's May 1st, called Keeping It Real, REAL. We'll be discussing residuals, equity, assets, and leverage as it relates to Chicagoland, the current market of real estate, not only what it takes to purchase a home, because so many people focus on buying the home, but also what it takes to keep that home and pass that home down from generation to generation. We will be keeping it real and having that discussion on May Day, May 1st, 2021. I will come back in this live and comment. The link will be live on my website by tomorrow. My website is my name, JamesiaJonae.com. It's above. So the link will be live by Friday, April 16th it's free. Got that part, it's free. The link will be live to register for this free event to be a part of this conversation, get some knowledge and information as it relates to purchasing, protecting, and passing down property. I guarantee you we know some things that your average agent doesn't know. And I give a lot of credit to my managing broker, Candace Payne, started out at Fifth Group Realty. She is a investor, rehabber, wholesaler, general contractor, developer. She taught us and trained on a lot of things that she knew and exposed us to information to be able to continue to educate our own selves. And like I said, I'm a nerd. So I'm just a nerd. So like, love, share, join us on May 1st. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Like the video, love the video, share the video, subscribe to YouTube. Have an awesome, awesome, awesome day. I am Jamesia Jonae. Thank you, Rainbow. I appreciate that.